Hello, hello, and welcome to our Virtuous product stage here. My name is Kayla Schneider, and I run our solutions engineering team here at Virtuous. That just means that what I do all day is I spend time doing this, showing our product, what it does, how it can make your life easier on your day to day tasks. My background, I actually came from fundraising. I did fundraising in higher education at an institution out in California, everything around database administration. So if we think about gift entry, annual giving lists, reporting, prospecting, all of those good things, those fell under my purview. And so that's kind of where my background is. Um, I came to Virtuous a little bit about a year and a half ago, thinking, when I saw the product, I was like, wow, if this is what I could do, if I didn't have to do so many workarounds, if a system could work with me, I want to do that. I want to work there. And so I'm here. I'm here to talk about Virtuous. And so today we are going to look at Virtuous in the aspect of listening and understanding what that looks like. So I'm going to share my screen here. And I want to do one thing real quick. Let me share my screen and we'll look at what responsive fundraising is so we can think about that there. And then we can kind of jump into the platform. Please feel free to add any questions in the chat. I will be monitoring that so that we can see that there. Perfect. Y'all can see my screen. That's great. So this is our responsive framework here at Virtuous. We believe that at the end of the day, I think you've heard about it in the beginning of our RNS here. Responsive fundraising is that idea of really connecting at scale with each and every donor, not just our major donors. And so how do we do that here at Virtuous? It really is in this responsive framework here where we can listen to who our donors are, understanding who they are, what makes them tick, where their affinity lies, and then moving to connecting with them personally at scale through automation, allowing you to really have those personalized touches without taking your staff time. Then suggesting that right step at the right time, understanding that it might not be a financial ask. It could be a social ask. It could be asking to engage with us in a different way. And then learning and understanding how we can, what works, what doesn't work, and making sure that we continue that cycle moving forward and what that next step is for each of those, our donors or supporters. And so that's what our responsive framework is. And so as you guys saw, probably this one is understanding and listening. So we're going to look at our platform through the listening lens. There'll be sessions in the next couple of days for connect, suggest, and learn. And then a couple of special sessions that my team is putting together. So just really excited to just show you what Virtuous looks like here. So let's hop in. This is Virtuous. So when we think about Virtuous, the first thing to note is that we are completely web-based. You have access to specific users, and those users can have really specific dashboards here. And so the first thing is when we think about how do we listen, well, we know that, we've all probably had those conversations where we're talking to a friend and they're just not hearing what we're saying, right? They're just not understanding, or we don't feel heard in that sense. So that's a lot of when our donors and our supporters feel the same way, right? They are telling us things and maybe we aren't comprehending them and speaking to them in the exact same opportunity in the way that they want to be spoken to. And so that's really when we think about how do we take in the information, how do we digest it, and make sure we segment our audiences appropriately, understanding where that is. And a lot of that comes to the data that's in the system. So when we hop in, this is our dashboard. Here you can see there are a ton of metrics built into the platform to help you understand what's going on with your database, your supporters as a whole. So understanding, right, looking at this like giving by campaign. So what's happening year over year, as well, looking at, if I'm a major gift officer, what's going on in my portfolio? Who's just given? Who should I reach out to? Understanding where my pipeline, my progress is. But also looking at a project or a fund where money is designated, understanding what that looks like. If I'm in charge of our annual fund for the year and we have a goal to raise $1 million, where are we at? What does that look like this year versus last year, or even just the last 30 days? How are we tracking along that as well? Just trying to understand, what's going on with our system there too. A couple of things here is that we do have a ton of best practices just in the platform all throughout. So allowing you to not have to recreate the wheel here, but really help just get started. So understanding what's going on a giving level, maybe at a project level, or just specific donor insights, understanding what that looks like. But also one thing I love is the ability to have custom reports and seeing data the way that your team needs to see data is so important. And so at the university I worked at, we actually looked at all of our fundraising kind of in 5 pillars. And this is a report that I would have needed to create. I would have needed to had ready at any moment to be able to understand where all our money was bucketed, how are we working against that fiscal year, and this is how we were understanding and listening to where that money was coming in at, and making sure that we were tracking along with what we were looking at there. So these reports here, I can add them to my dashboard. I can even schedule them and have them sent out to the appropriate people daily, weekly, monthly there as well. But also understanding that, specific information is important for each person, right? So this is my dashboard. It's my unique view, what I would want to see, especially if I was a major gift officer, what my portfolio looks like, but also then understanding where I need to be spending time and what that looks like here as well. So we do have a full task manager here in Virtuous where you can assign tasks for yourself, you can assign tasks for others, but the system can also assign tasks for you through automation. And that is going to be key to what we talk through today. Like, how can we listen well to our donors and have the system highlight those things that we need to be focusing on? And so here, as you can see, I'm actually having people added to my portfolio automatically. So we have some, natively integrated wealth data with donor search that we'll look at in just a second. I'm actually including, largest gift size, total amount given in a fiscal year or of all time, or even where they live, understanding what types of people we're looking at. All of that is listening to those, signals that people are sending. It allows me to know this person looks like my other major donors. I'm going to have them added into my portfolio. It's going to allow me to do research. I can reach out to them and start stewarding that relationship right now instead of waiting to have to maybe run a quarterly report or something like that. The system's automatically adding these every single day as soon as somebody pops up that looks like my other major donors. Also, being able to have like a recurring stewardship call, being able to track those gift asks, but even thinking about grant management, being able to track application deadlines, reporting, submissions, those types of things. Even like true project management. Maybe you are working on a large, annual giving direct mail appeal. Being able to track when you need to have the copy written and that image done, and getting your, quotes back from your supporters, like those types of things. All that can be tracked in Virtuous as well. The other side of the screen here is what we call our following piece. I kind of like to think of it as like a social media following. And I get to follow specific people in the database. So these are the people in the database that I need to make sure I'm following to a T. I want to know everything that's happening with them. Are they opening up emails and clicking on links? What links are they actually clicking on? Are they giving a gift? They're volunteering. Maybe they're RSVPing for an event. A really great way to have information given to me so I know exactly what's going on with those people that I need to follow. Maybe my board members, maybe those high level VIP donors, knowing what's going on. So again, I don't have to wait for a report to be sent to me. But I have access to that right here, right? I can just see, great, that art person RSVP'd for an event. I'm going to call Rick. He just RSVP'd, tell him I can't wait to see him. And then maybe I need a table host, ask him to host that table and engage and continue to build that relationship as they're interacting with us. A couple of other things when we think about just how we listen well to who our donors are and what that looks like. When we hop into a contact record here, a couple of things that we think through here is when we think about contacts, we have household, organizations, foundations. You can create your own custom types, understanding how you engage with them. Maybe you want to track churches or schools, hospitals, those types of things. But one thing I think that's really important when we look at just how data is held and when we think about donors or supporters in general is how we hold households. So when we think about a household, we do have a natural state of householding. And that means that Justin and Melissa have a unique ID here at the household level, but they also have individual unique IDs as well. And this means that I get to look at this in one place, right? I see Justin and Melissa that as a household. I have one screen to look at. I don't need to remember where I put a note or where I maybe put that large ask or that proposal. Everything is here in one place. But I still have the ability to engage with them individually. I can see here that, who's volunteering, who's coming to an event, if they answer survey questions differently, who, t-shirt sizes, those types of things. All of that can be held in the system individually or at a global level. When we think about those, specific custom fields, we do have the ability to track custom fields as well. And so I think this is huge when we think about collecting like survey information or like a get to know you kind of a thing after somebody gives their first gift. Engaging with people and capturing data the way that your team needs to capture data is so, so important. So here I'm tracking, language spoken on the individual level. I come from higher ed, so my mind automatically goes to information I'd want to be able to track and that higher ed opportunity. What's their class of? What was their major? What were they involved with? Things that I want to be able to in see here as custom fields. You can create those to make sure that they match what you need to be able to see. We also have the ability to do what we call custom collections. And these are really tables that you get to hold in the database that allow you to understand and see your supporters in a holistic sense. Maybe this isn't for information that you would have normally kept in your database, but it allows you to get that real, like, full 360 view of how people are engaging with you. So here I've clicked into a store purchases table. This is a table I've created. I get to have as many fields, types of fields that I want, but then I can keep this data actionable. So it's really important when we think about store purchases, right? We don't want that to muddy up our donation history. We don't necessarily want that to change what we see as they've given as their, total giving, but we still want to be able to track that information and know that maybe, Melissa and Justin have never given a gift, but they are avid purchasers. Maybe we could use that information to understand that they do support our mission, but they've never actually just given an outright gift. Let's send them on a donor journey that allows us to, convert them from a purchaser to a donor. I want to be able to look at everybody who bought a sweatshirt in the last 12 months and send them an email saying, hey, we have a new drop or we have this new opportunity, right? Engaging with them and using the data that I have here to be able to understand how they're engaging with us and be able to speak to them in those specific ways. We do this as well through the ability to think through tagging and segmenting of data. This is really, really important. We think about like also data health and cleanliness. If we're thinking about how we engage with our donors, segmenting and targeting those audiences is really, really important. And so these tags here, the custom fields, and also what we call organization groups, these are all things that are ways that we track and target specific audiences. And these can be added, removed, and updated either here at the contact level in bulk through query, but they can also be added and removed again through automation. This is massive if we think about the ability of saving your team time. If I just think about the idea of segmentation, if we just think about one direct mail, at the university, we ran a lot of direct mails. And it took me hours and hours, even days in the beginning to segment our audiences. And it was a very tedious task of running a query, globally adding information, globally deleting information. And it was just a very arduous process to get through that and keep the data clean for the direct mails that we would send out, right? 4, 5, 6, 7 a year. And it was probably in the end, weeks of my time that I would have spent just segmenting my data. Here in Virtuous, I actually could have my data segmented nightly. Instead of me spending my time running the same query over and over, adding and removing the information I needed, the system can do that for me. So if we think about, just simple segments of active, major donors, recurring donors, any other active donors, lapsed donors, new donors, and non-donors. The system can automatically add and remove those tags for you. Have queries set up that looks at as soon as they start a recurring gift, automatically add that tag as a recurring donor. As soon as they pass a certain threshold of giving, automatically add the tag of major donor. So then when I go in to run my direct mail, when I run my emails, those tags are kept up to date every single day. So I know that with certainty that the data is clean and healthy, and I can understand how I should be talking to my donors. I want to make sure that somebody, when they give over $5,000 in that calendar year, they're talked to as a major donor. They should always get this type of language. It's allowing me to listen to who they are, right? Understanding how we can engage with them in different ways. This really works well when we think about giving societies as well, or if we think about just the idea of, interests, right? Being able to track interests through giving pages, or saying, hey, tell us a little bit more about yourself. These people are interested in sports and coaching. These are just easy ways to be able to highlight where people have said they're, want to engage with you, what programs they're interested in. The system can automatically add and remove these tags based on how they interact with your emails, what forms they've submit, what web pages they're viewing, all those types of things. The system can automatically track that for you. Another great way to think about how we listen well to our donors is our wealth data. So we do have a natively integrated, integration here with donor search. This is a little bit different than maybe how you're currently doing your wealth screening. So normally what you would be doing is you're exporting out your data, you're sending it out to a vendor, it's being screened, they then send it back and you upload it, and now it's static, right? It's old data as soon as you get it back. This is a little different. This data is actually living here in the system. It is added to records automatically when they're put into the system. So as soon as I give a $100 gift, the system can automatically screen me for wealth capacity and say, hey, Mark Cuban gave that gift. Automatically add them as a major donor. You don't have to wait for a new screening or have somebody manually do that screening for you. The system can automatically do that and then send a task to maybe your executive director, a prospect research person, to be able to add them appropriately to the right portfolio. One thing I love is that this information is actually living here in the system. I can query upon it, I can report upon it, I can export it, I can filter it, I can use this data to even tier my portfolios. So another great way to listen is to understand where somebody's affinity already lies, right? Where are they already giving their money? I love the sector giving. I would have used this massively to understand where we should be asking for large gifts, right? Are they already giving to higher education? Do they really love the arts? Well, great. We need new pianos for our School of Music. We know that this person has a heart for that. Understanding where somebody, what their passions are, allows us to make the correct asks, allows us to engage with somebody in the ways that they would prefer to be engaged with. So this data really allows you to be able to understand who they are, learn what they like, and then be able to ask appropriately. As I mentioned, right, there are a ton of things here that allow us to see where people are engaging, what links they're clicking on, how they're engaging with our marketing pieces. But also we have what we call our social insights, where we're scraping the web for public data associated to email addresses and looking at personal information, websites they're associated with, organizations, profiles, and also being able to see pictures. I really like this part where, as a major gift officer, I wouldn't have to say, hey, I'll be the person in the red and white sweater in the coffee shop. Or I don't have to, ask every single person that comes in to the coffee shop, are you Justin? Are you Justin? I can see what he looks like here, automatically having that, understanding where he works, what his last tweet was, really allowing me to learn about what he likes, what he's engaging with. And again, allowing me to just have a little bit of leg up there and knowing who he is as a person and what he engages with. I mentioned we do have some web history tracking as well. This is where we have a small piece of code that you can add to your web pages that allows us to see where people are spending time, what pages they're looking at, what is important to them. So if you have multiple programs and somebody's spending all of their time looking at your clean water program and they're not looking at your farming program, that's going to help us know we should be asking for gifts for that clean water program instead of asking for that other option, right? Again, just knowing where somebody's interest lies allows us to make a more personalized ask to them, and it's more appropriate for them. One thing I love is that we do have some donor insights in the system as well that allows us to understand where people are engaging, right? So these scores, they are looking at a couple of different things here. So we are looking at how somebody is either engaging financially, but also socially. So I mentioned, right, that when we think about generosity here, it's in that holistic sense. Not every gift is a financial ask, but some of them are. So when we think about our financial score, this is really looking at that recency, frequency, and amount of giving to your organization. So their behaviors with you. How do they engage with you? So if we were to look at Justin and Melissa, they're not quite ready for that next large ask yet. They're not quite ready. They might have just given a gift, but it's that ability to be able to say, Kayla gives every November. Like clockwork, she sends in her gift in November. So it's going to tell us in November, she's ready for that ask. I'm not going to ask for a large gift in January. That's not something that's normal for her. Allowing us to understand what our behaviors are and for each of our supporters and knowing when that next step is really, really important there as well. You can see a suggested ask amount here, and this can be based either just on past giving history, but it also can include some of that natively integrated wealth data with donor search that we just looked at. So making sure that we have the next best ask for each person really allows us to know how to ask and what to ask for as well. And then we have a social score here. This social score is looking at a couple of different pieces that we just talked about. So it's looking at our social insights piece, that part where we're scraping the web for that public data, looking at social profiles. So this is looking at followers on Twitter, interactions on LinkedIn, numerous different other things. And then we're actually combining that information with the relationships that are in the system, as well as the density of population of where that person is living. And so we're actually able to understand how to engage somebody socially. I also love this score. I think it would have been huge to be able to understand, especially coming from, again, my background, higher ed, those young alumni. I know that I have gotten calls that, have said, hey, I just graduated. Would you like to donate $25? And the idea of, hey, instead of asking maybe for a $25 gift where I'm still paying back my loans, why don't we ask them to engage with us socially? Maybe ask them to tweet, become our social ambassadors on Twitter, or ask them to invite their friends to a fundraiser that we're hosting in their community. Or even for our major donors and understanding that they might be in a hot pocket of other major donors, engaging them and asking them to host a fundraiser in their home. Understanding how we can ask somebody to engage with us beyond just that financial ask, where we're still building that relationship, knowing that we can, build that relationship moving forward so that when it's time for that financial ask, it's not just a one and done every year. I know that they're only going to ask me for a gift and they're never going to engage with me again, right? Make sure that we engage with them appropriately throughout the year as well. I mentioned a piece about that social density or understanding where people are living. We do have some geolocation in app as well. So here I can see, where people are in relation to Justin and Melissa. If I'm going out for a coffee visit and I want to maybe make the most of my time, I can see who else is nearby, try to schedule multiple visits at a time. But also just globally, being able to understand where people are at on a map. We're trying to host an event. We're trying to make sure what that looks like. I'm in Las Vegas here, so let's see who's in Las Vegas. Where should I host my event in Vegas? What would make the most sense? Understanding that, hey, probably don't want to host it down here in Henderson. I don't have anybody that's engaging with me down there. I probably want to host an event up here, but I also want to be able to make it easy for our team to get data. So you're going to see here this filter option in a ton of different places throughout Virtuous. And this is going to allow us to do a couple of things to just filter down data. Maybe I want to look at anybody who had given a gift last year's giving of over $1,000. I could say last year's giving is greater than or equal to $1,000. Maybe I just want to look at my portfolio. Portfolios here in Virtuous are called organization groups. So I could filter down by just my portfolio here, understanding that these are the people I want to engage with. These are the people I should be reaching out to. Easily being able to see, hey, I'm going to, Vegas for a conference. I also want to schedule some donor visits. I don't have to bother an analyst to get that data. I can come in quickly and easily see that here. And then I can also do something with this information. I can either, add it to an event. I can add a tag to use for future marketing opportunities. I can also just add them to my queue, which is a really great, kind of like holding place that allows me to work through my list of calling as I need as well. So just a couple of different ways there on a contact record of how we can listen and understand and capture data from our marketing forms and those types of things. But how do we make that data actionable, right? We have all this data. What can we do with now how we're going to listen to that? And so a couple of things I want to call out here when we think about automation. We talked about automation in an internal sense, right? Adding out tasks, adding and removing tags, updating custom fields. But also, we have a marketing engine that's fully built into Virtuous as well. So we can send out emails, text messages, and also what we call letters on demand, which are letters or postcards that can be printed, stamped, and mailed and sent out on behalf of your organization for you. Not going to be like large direct mail pieces like your end of the year appeal, but more one off donor timing, donor intent pieces that make a difference for when somebody's engaging with you or on their schedule, not our schedule. So here you can see, again, more best practices built into the platform to give you a really good foundation to get started. So these templates give you writing prompts. They give you suggested workflows. They give you the queries you need to get started. They'll actually even create the tags in the background. Again, just a really good foundation to help you get started. And then you can go in there, customize, make it your own, and then move forward. We just find it might be a little bit easier to start with something on the page instead of just starting with a completely blank workflow, which you can also do. You can start something from scratch if you already have something that your team is doing. When we think about these 9 best practice templates, I personally have a couple of favorites. I love a good birthday celebration. I think it's a really easy, soft touch to get in when we talk to our donors, but it's very tedious, right? So at the university, we would pull our birthday lists one time a month, and those emails would go out one time a month. Really good for me. My birthday's on the 1st, so I'd always get an email on my birthday, but a really different feel for somebody who's at the 29th of the month, right? They're getting it at the birthday email 4 weeks, maybe in advance, 3 weeks in advance of their email, not the same personalization. So allowing a couple of things to happen here. Maybe all of your major gift officers want to interact with their people differently. Kevin wants to have an email sent out from him with a specific message. I want to call my people. But maybe, Ashley, she wants everybody to get a postcard in the mail. All those different people can have different ways that they interact. And because it's query based, we're able to really segment down and target those audiences based on how they're engaging with us. It might be based on a project designation, being able to say, hey, so-and-so gives to our clean water project. Let's send a picture of our clean water project in the birthday email. Really easily kind of doing some of those things, listening to how our donors engage with us and allowing us to personalize that communication to them moving forward. Again, stewarding donors. So I love donor stewardship. Thanking people is so, so important, making sure that they understand that they're making an impact on your organization. So wouldn't it be amazing to send out an email that says, hey, Kayla, with your last gift of $150, you just passed $1,000 of giving this year. Thank you so much for your continued generosity. Your impact means this. And having a really specific story of how $1,000 makes a difference for your organization. And the really, really awesome thing is that email can literally go out the very next day. I give my gift, it's processed, the system will send out that email the next day. That acknowledgement time is so much shorter. And it takes a lot to get those milestones, right? To be able to say, hey, you gave this much money, you've passed a specific threshold, but also our volunteers, making sure that we understand that they're giving of their time, which equates to so much impact for organizations. I know that there are so many nonprofits that would not survive without their volunteers. So being able to say, hey, Ben, you just volunteered for 100 hours. That means this. That is, and having that acknowledgement and those types of things, sending out a text message, sending out a postcard, all of that can happen automatically for you and allowing you to really engage with your donors there as well. So I want to hop in quickly to see what a new donor welcome series could look like as well. So being able to engage with a new donor, knowing that they are a new donor, right? Really important. We know that if we engage with a new donor within the first 30 days, their lifetime value is 300 times greater than if they weren't engaged with. There's about a 76% attrition rate from that first gift to the second gift. And it's really because of the idea of we're not listening to how our donors are engaging with us. And we just kind of put them in like a one size fits all kind of bucket of how we, on our timing and our intent, engage with them. So through automation, how can we change that? How can we help them know that we see them as a first-time donor, that we're listening to them, that we know that they are a first-time donor, and this is what that means to us? So here, this is actually based on that template here where we're actually adding and doing some internal tasks. We're adding a tag into the system as a first time donor. This allows us to know, when I look at that record, they're a first time donor, they're given one gift. I'm also going to add them into a new donor welcome series. This is going to help me. I'm going to use it as an exclude personally to make sure I'm not bombarding them with a bunch of other marketing pieces as we move forward. We're appending that wealth data that we talked about, and then also being able to have an internal task go out to have somebody give them a call and thank them for that very first gift. Externally, we're sending out an email, thanking them, explaining the impact of that gift, and also sending them a postcard, making sure that we have that omni-channel approach going on, that they're not just seeing us in one medium, just email, but they're really getting engagement with us in email, in a phone call, in a postcard. And then we're removing tags. I love removing tags. My database administrator heart loves the idea of keeping the data clean. So being able to have the system automatically remove that tag, a first-time donor, as soon as they give their second gift. Keeping your data clean and ready so that when you move forward for that next, ask, you know that they're no longer a first-time donor. So I can change my wording in my direct mails, in my emails, making sure that I'm talking to them appropriately. Being able to understand our engagement and results is also really, really valuable, right? Knowing how our new donors are interacting. Say I had 3 emails here. What if nobody opens up that third email? Let's remove it. Let's add that touch somewhere else. Being able to maybe change it from an email to a text message, right? Those are the types of things we want to be able to look at, understand, and see what's happening there as well. Another automation that I want to call out is like a donor loyalty series. It's great to be able to recognize people for how much they've given, but also loyalty is so valuable, right? Not everybody is going to pass $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 in their lifetime, but we know our loyal donors are really the foundation of how we continue to give. And so being able to recognize as soon as somebody gives that gift that makes them a 2-year loyal donor, let's send them an email. And then what about when they transition that next year to a 3rd-year loyal donor? Let's send an email, but maybe let's send a text message as well, being able to engage with them. How cool would it be to get a postcard in the mail recognizing that you're a reactivated donor, welcoming you back into the community, right? These are all things that when we understand, we're trying to listen to how our donors are engaging with us, what their continued engagement is, maybe they've lapsed, those types of things, knowing that so that when we talk to them, it's not like, dear friend, would you consider giving a gift? It's, hey, Kayla, we miss you. Your gifts in the past haven't meant this type of impact. Would you consider, partnering with us again? What a change in messaging there, right? How can we personalize that engagement to really make sure that we are listening and speaking and connecting with them at scale, but also, in the appropriate ways, making sure that I'm not getting a letter that's asking me to become a recurring donor when I'm already a recurring donor. Those are the types of things when we want to make sure that we are speaking personally and correctly to our donors, that we're listening to who they are and how they're engaging with us. The last piece of automation I want to call out here is just also internal automation, making sure that we are engaging with our staff members and helping them listen to their donors as well. So I personally love the idea of being able to give a little nudge to my major gift officers when they haven't contacted somebody in 90 days. That's a big deal, right? When we want to think about how can we engage and keep building our relationships moving forward. There should at least be a small connection, text message, an email, some kind of piece that we're continually building that relationship moving forward. And so the system has the ability to help with that. In our portfolios at the university, there were sometimes over 200 people. That's a lot of people to keep in your brain, right? So having a system help kind of be your assistant and say, hey, nudging, you haven't talked to so-and-so, make sure you reach out to them, do something. It's just a really helpful thing to think about when we are listening to how we're engaging. Maybe they haven't engaged with us. That's going to give us a little bit of nudge to reach out to them and kind of bring them back into the fold as well. So this is just a high level look at Virtuous. Obviously, I mentioned we have marketing, right? So we didn't even look at our marketing engine. We have full giving platform, full volunteer opportunities. And we're going to actually dig into these later in the week, the next couple of sessions, in the next couple of days to see how all of those pieces work as well. But right now, if I'm going to drop a link into the chat about if you want a personalized demo. Please feel free to reach out to us so we can schedule that and help you see what that looks like for your team. But also, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'll be happy to answer them here. Yeah, any questions before we kind of give you some time back to go take a bathroom break, get some more coffee, and then attend another session? Okay, I don't see any questions. So please feel free. The next couple of sessions here today are going to be around how we look at the suggest tenant or connecting. How do we connect personally at scale? Then we're going to look at how do we suggest that right ask at the right time. Our giving pages are going to be included there. Tomorrow, we're actually going to do some special sessions around, well, learning. How do we learn, understand who our donors are? But then also, what can internal automation look like for your team? Also, what customization of data can look like and how to really set yourself up for success when you're starting out in a CRM. And then we're going to look at what technology looks like for major gift officers, how to keep it easy for your team, easy to use technology. And then the last piece would be our volunteer opportunity, our VOMO platform, what it looks like to have a frictionless experience for your team set up for your volunteers to sign up and engage with your team. So thank you so much for joining me here. Please feel free to take a break, hop into the end of another session. But it was great to have you all. And I hope I'll see you guys at some other sessions today.